Welcome back to the POAS Desk. In the last episode, we covered POAs for minors and dependents. In this episode, we cover one of the most strategic decisions in POA, drafting whether to grant specific powers tied to defined actions or general powers that give the attorney broad authority. This is not a technical question. It is a question about how much trust you want to extend, how much administrative simplicity you want, and how much protection you want against misuse. Getting the balance right is the difference between a POA that works smoothly and one that either causes problems or fails to be useful. Start with the two ends of the spectrum. A specific powers POA grants the attorney authority to do precisely defined things: sign the sale and purchase agreement for a specific property, attend a specific trustee appointment, receive specific funds, sign specific documents. The powers are listed individually. Anything not listed is not authorized. A general powers POA grants the attorney broad authority to act on the principal's behalf in a defined area, manage all property matters, handle all banking matters, represent the company in all dealing with a specific government authority. The powers are described in broad terms, with the attorney having latitude to interpret what falls within the scope. The trade-off is direct. Specific powers give the principal protection. The attorney cannot do anything beyond what is listed. If the attorney is asked to do something not authorized, they have to come back to the principal for a fresh POA. The principal stays in control of every significant action. Specific powers also create friction. Every action requires a corresponding power in the document. If something unexpected comes up, a small administrative matter, a document the principal did not foresee, the attorney cannot handle it without going back to the principal. The transaction may stall. General powers give the attorney flexibility. They can adapt to circumstances as they arise. They can handle the unexpected. They can complete transactions even when the specifics are not all known in advance. General powers also expose the principal to risk. The attorney has wide latitude. If they interpret their authority broadly, or if their judgment differs from what the principal would have wanted, the principal has limited recourse. The attorney's authority is what the document says it is, and broad language is interpreted broadly. The right answer depends on the situation. For a property sale POA, where the principal knows the property, the buyer, and the timeline, specific powers are usually right. The transaction has defined parameters. The powers can be listed precisely. The principal retains control. For a property management POA, where the property will be managed for years and the specifics cannot all be foreseen, general powers within a defined scope are usually right. The attorney needs to handle whatever arises in normal property management without going back for new POAs every time. For a corporate POA where the company's affairs are complex and changing, the answer is usually a hybrid. General powers for routine operational matters, specific powers for significant transactions. The drafting takes more care, but the result is workable for both day-to-day and major events. For a bank account POA, the answer leans towards specific powers, because banks themselves prefer specific authorizations. Banks are conservative about who can do what with customer accounts, and they generally accept clearer, narrower POAs more readily than broader ones. Some practical guidance on getting the balance right. If the action is well defined and time-bounded, use specific powers. The principal knows what needs to happen. Listing it precisely costs nothing and protects the principal. If the action is open-ended or evolving, use general powers within a defined scope. The attorney needs latitude to handle what comes. The principal accepts that they cannot foresee every detail. If the principal does not fully trust the attorney, use specific powers. Regardless, the friction is the price of protection. A general POA too. Someone you do not fully trust is asking for trouble. If the principal trusts the attorney completely and convenience matters more than protection, general powers within scope are appropriate. But this is a high-trust scenario and should be a deliberate choice. A common mistake we see: principals default to general powers because they sound simpler. The result is a POA with broad authority that the principal did not really intend to grant. When asked specifically about whether the attorney should be able to do various things, the principal often says no, but the document says yes. Another mistake: principals overspecify, listing every conceivable action in detail and missing the practical purpose of the OH. The result is a long document that does not cover the actions actually needed when the moment comes. At POS, we structure POS based on the principal's specific situation. We discuss the trade-off explicitly. We list specific powers where specificity matters. We use general language where general language is appropriate. The drafting reflects a deliberate decision, not a default template. In episode 24, we cover fee breakdowns and hidden costs, what you should expect to pay for a POA, and what to watch for when other providers quote suspiciously low prices. I'm Patrick. Thanks for joining me at the POAS desk.